Welcome to another video by Flat Earth Trads. Please subscribe, like and share it.
Firstly, the horrible sight now I see it is true, for the blood-bolted banquo smiles upon me and points at them for this. Act 3 of Macbeth, the ghost of Banquo is appearing, and he's appearing blood-bolted. And according to the computer, the word bolted does not occur anywhere else in Shakespeare's complete works, and it probably doesn't occur in anybody else either. I'm sure it's a word he invented. I don't know why it's so suitable. It is suitable. It obviously means blotched in blood, bolted, B-O-L-T-E-R. Why is that suitable? What's the man? I remember Dr. White saying in connection with measure for measure, he's got a word for Angelo which exists nowhere else, and it's entirely suitable. I forget what he calls him. Frenzied. Yes. What's that next to it? That's another word he invented. Why is bolted suitable? B-O-L-T-E-R-E-D. Bolted. Blotted, yes. Blotted, of course. That's close to blotted. But it's not blotted. It is close to that. What else is it close to? Bolted. Bolster. Bolster. Yeah, that. Bolster, yes. Bolster, blotted. Bolted. Just invented the word. Obviously means covered in blood, splotched in blood. Blood splotched. That's what it means. Imagine. So, Shakespeare's vocabulary is something like 100,000 words, and most people live on about, how much do people live off? Most people live with about a vocabulary of about 3,000 of them. So, tells you what league he's in. The computer would tell you how many separate words he has. I don't know, but there's a lot. When there weren't enough words in the dictionary, he invented a few more. Chapter 7. Had we reached chapter 7? We'd finished chapter 6. The mountains and the islands, and the kings of the earth, and princes and tribunes, and the rich men and the strong, and every servant and free man hid themselves in the caves and in the rocks, amongst the rocks of the mountains. And they said to the mountains and to the stones, fall down upon us and hide us from the face of he who sits upon the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day has come of their wrath, and who shall be able to stand it? And we already quoted Joel 2 verse 11. Dies irae, dies illa. Solvet seclum in favilla, testidare cum Sibylla. He quotes Joel. It's also in Sophonius, who's another of the minor prophets. Sophonius, Zephaniah. Sophonius. It's called Sophonius. Sophonius 2, day of wrath. That day. Joel 2, what's the cross-reference in BAC? Who's got BAC? Sorry? There we are, that'll be it. The great day of the Lord is near, it is near and exceeding swift. The voice of the day of the Lord is bitter, the mighty man shall there meet with tribulation. That day is a day of wrath, 15. A day of tribulation and distress, a day of calamity and misery, a day of darkness and obscurity, a day of clouds and whirlwinds, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high bullocks. And I will distress men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord. And blood shall be poured out as earth, and their bodies as dung. Neither shall their silver and their gold be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord. All the land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy destruction of all them that dwell in the land. That's Sophonius. So, that's a little like here. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is the sixth seal. The persecution of the Antichrist, we've seen that. The sun and the moon being hidden, the stars falling from the sky, that's the bishops falling into apostasy. But at the same time, with this shattering of the wicked earth, with the appalling fright, alongside the appalling fright of the reprobates, contrast the calm security of the elect, and we get a picture of the signing of the elect. So these are the fruits. Chapter 7 is the fruits of the church. We're still in the 6th seal. So this is alongside the shattering of the wicked earth by the wrath of God. We have the vision of the signing of the elect. So, after these things, chapter 7, I saw 4 angels, we're still in the 6th seal, standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that they should not blow upon the earth, nor upon the sea, nor on any tree. Okay, now be careful. The angels are not good guys, the first ones. I saw 4 angels. These are devils. Verse 1, I saw 4 devils. Of course, devils are angels, and they're bad angels instead of good angels. The word angel, obviously, today usually means a good angel, but of course all devils are bad angels. I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth. There are 4 devils still serving God to test the just. The French have a proverb, even the devil carries stone. In other words, God gets even the devil to do his work for him. And in this case, the devils are putting the just to the test, to the trial. I saw 4 angels, in fact devils, standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth. The 4 corners of the earth are the 4 corners of preaching. The 4 corners of preaching. Heaven, hell, sin and virtue. Virtue, heaven, sin and hell. The 4 corners of preaching. Dogma, heaven and hell, morals, sin and virtue. Dogmatic theology, moral theology. Holding the 4 winds of the earth, that they should not blow upon the earth, nor upon the sea, nor upon any tree. The winds of the earth are the 4 gospel preaching of the church. The 4 winds are the 4 gospel preaching. The preaching based on the 4 gospels. The preaching of the 4 gospels. So the 4 angels are 4 devils, the 4 corners of the earth are the 4 corners of preaching, because the 4 winds of the earth are the 4 gospels, so to speak. The winds of the 4 gospels, the breath of the 4 gospels over the face of the earth. Now you see, the holding the 4 winds of the earth, that they should not blow upon the earth, nor upon the sea, nor on any tree. And you can see why they're devils, because the verse 2, I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having the sign of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. That's the end of verse 2. To hurt the earth and the sea. So that's why they're 4 devils, because they're hurting. And then I saw another angel, and he said, do not hurt until the elect are signed. So this is the devil putting the just to the trial and stopping the gospel from being preached, stopping the wind of the gospel from blowing over the face of the earth. That you've seen in Vatican II, an enormous stoppage of the preaching of the gospel, a falsification of the gospel so that it's turned into just humanism. And the real gospel has stopped being preached. So, the 4 devils are stopping the preaching of the earth. stopping the preaching of the gospel over the face of the earth, ne flarent super terram neque super mare neque, so that the gospel should not breathe upon the earth, nor upon the sea, nor upon any tree. The earth represents souls of goodwill capable of bearing fruit. Some fell upon the wayside, some fell upon good earth. Parable of the sower and the seed. So the earth is here, stands for good ground. Souls of goodwill capable of bearing fruit. The sea, on the other hand, have we had that before? The sea often represents pagans or the Gentiles. Why would the sea represent pagans or Gentiles? Holden. Yes, if you like, yes. It's dangerous, it's unstable, you can't rely upon it, you can't drink it. There's nothing there of any substance or stability. So that's the sea. So the sea is a regular symbol for the pagans, which means in relation to the Jews it means the Gentiles, in relation to the Catholic Church it means the non-Catholics. So that's why earth is the good souls, the sea is sinners, agitated and unstable. Agitated and unstable. The Romantics love above all the sea in what form? What kind of a sea do the Romantics love? Does anybody know Wagner's Flying Dutchman? Oh, we ought to play that. At least the first few bars. Has anybody got the Flying Dutchman? Nobody got the Flying Dutchman? Well, have a look for it. A stormy sea. The Romantics love a stormy sea. Why do you think the Romantics love a stormy sea? Holden? Yes, that's right. Why do they like passion? This is Rousseau. Go back to Rousseau. Yes, well done, that's right. Raw nature as opposed to... That's right. Quote-unquote civilization, that's it. Civilization by the end of the 18th century simply meant it was too organized, too tied up, too controlled, too dusty, too lifeless. So the Romantics wanted to blow loose with a great storm. What writers in previous ages did they like? All the German Romantics adored Shakespeare. Well, Shakespeare has quite a few storms. Where's the greatest storm in Shakespeare, undoubtedly? Lear, yes, King Lear. Yeah. Shakespeare, of course, is a lot more than just storm, but he does have that, there is that in him. And the storm, what do storms usually represent in Shakespeare? That's right, the breakup of the natural order. And what's the breakup of the natural order in King Lear, most? Which is symbolized by this storm, which is figured by this storm. Who's responsible? Himself and... that's part of the disorder, and that's actually the basis of it. But after that comes the ingratitude of his two daughters, remember? Ingratitude of his two daughters, the horrible ingratitude towards their father of the two daughters. So that's the disorder. The old man having given away his kingdom, and then the two daughters totally ungrateful. And that's represented by this almighty storm, which is described in incomparable language. Blow winds and crack your cheeks. You cataracts and hurricanes spout. Da, 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 da. So that's a stormy sea. Represents for the Romantics unchained nature. Is not at all fun being a small boat on a stormy sea. But the Romantics don't think about that. For them it's just they gag when they think of a stormy sea. Yes? Shelley died on it, yes. And Paul Johnson in Intellectuals has an interesting page or two about the death of Shelley. Shelley was apparently, he was in a sailing boat and he was trying to race it faster and faster and faster. It was like a motorbike, and he was trying to get this light boat. He drove it deliberately into the storm apparently and wanted it to go as fast until, eventually, apparently. Has anybody ever looked at that book called Intellectuals by Paul Johnson? It's in the library, I think. There's some quite interesting things in it. He's not completely reliable. He's, what does he believe in? He is Catholic, but he believes in Pope John Paul II, I'm sure of that. But he's got a good brain and he knows a lot. He has been a socialist in the past. He used to edit a magazine called the New Statesman, which was very left-wing way back, the 1960s. But he has got a good brain. And he writes interesting. There's all kinds of modern revolutionary writers in there. Tolstoy, Ibsen, Shelley, Marx, Sartre, I think. And he shows they nearly all had personally they nearly all had immoral lives. He shows. It's an interesting book. They're heroes of the modern age, but they're nearly all immoral privately. And there's obviously a connection. Shelley was very immoral. I mean, not very, compared with some others. But he was definitely immoral in his private life. Couldn't care less about marriage or anything like that. I think he was married, but I didn't think very much to it. He was a revolutionary figure, Shelley. So a stormy sea. Well, tomorrow I will add to your education, if I remember, by getting hold of a copy of the Flying Dutchman Overture. It must be somewhere. So it's very stormy. So and you can hear somebody said you can hear the wind blowing through every page of the score of the Flying Dutchman. It's true. Wagner was once at sea in a boat in a storm, and he got it in music, absolutely like that. Nor upon the sea, nor upon any tree. What is a tree? The trees are the just reaching out for heaven. So the earth is souls of goodwill, and the trees are the good plants reaching upwards. The earth is what can produce a tree, and the tree is what the earth produces. So the angels want the preaching of the gospel to be stopped for the ordinary souls, for the good souls, and the bad souls, all. Verse 2, and I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having the sign of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, verse 3, hurt not the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, till we sign the servants of our God on their foreheads. The other angel, and I saw another angel, this is Christ, arising from the east, from the source of eternal light, the direction of the dawn, obviously. From the source of the eternal light. Holding the sign of the living God. The sign of the living God is the cross. Sign of the living God. The sign that has all power over earth, in heaven and in hell, the sign of the cross. Compare Ezekiel 9, verse 4, where a heavenly messenger marks the Tor, which is the Greek letter T, marks the sign of T upon the foreheads. of the just in Jerusalem. So it's also the sign of the living God is the power of Christ. The power of Christ as God, manifested to Peter at Caesarea, thou art the Son of the living God, or to the centurion beneath the cross, truly this was the Son of God. So the sign of the living God is also the power of Christ made manifest. It's the cross, it's the sign of the tall, and or the sign of his power, as occasionally was manifest on earth. In the Valtorta, our Lord very rarely deploys his power. Occasionally. He very rarely gets angry, and he very rarely shows any power. It's usually kept completely bottled up, so to speak, completely disguised, hidden away. But occasionally, when the Pharisees harass him particularly hard, then his eyes begin to flash fire, and everybody is scared stiff. The descriptions are quite something. But it wasn't usually like that. Obviously, it was usually the Lord meek and humble of heart. So this is the power of the living God, shown as the sign of the living God, his power. And he cried out with a great voice to the four angels, to whom it was given to harm the earth and the sea, saying, he cried out by the preaching of his apostles over the whole earth. By the preaching of his apostles over the whole earth. Notice the second part of 2, the four angels to whom it had been given to harm. In other words, the devils were operating with the permission of God. And he said, do not harm the earth and the sea nor the trees until we sign the servants of God, of our God, on their foreheads. Hurt not does not mean spare them persecution, but let them not be overcome. Nolita nocere, do not let overcome. Do not let the sea, nor the earth, nor the trees be overcome. Until we sign the servants of our God on their foreheads. Sign. The sign will mark out the Christians who are not ashamed of their faith or of their cross. Until we sign the servant. Remember our Lord, he that is ashamed of me before men, I will be ashamed of him before my Father. He that stands up for me before men, I will stand up for before my Father. Do not harm earth nor land nor trees until we sign the servants of God, until we mark out the Christians not ashamed of their faith or of their master's cross. What sign? Because it might be the seal of confirmation upon their foreheads, the seal of confirmation, the sacrament of confirmation. Literally, it might be the seal of confirmation, although plenty of confirmed people go to hell. In the mystical sense, the sign is the passion of Christ. The sign with which the servants of God are marked is the passion of Christ. As marking the souls of Christians, the passion of Christ as marking the souls of Christians. Together with their mortification. Verse 4 onwards. And I heard the number of them that were signed. 144,000 were signed of every tribe of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah, 12,000. Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zabulon, Joseph, Benjamin. Each of them 12,000. Verses 4 to 9, that's the... and then verse 9, after these I saw a great crowd which nobody could number, from all nations and tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne, and in the sight of the Lamb, dressed in white stoles, with palms in their hands. This whole section, verses 4 to 9, is the separation of Jew and Gentile. In the literal sense, Jews are not automatically saved but must be signed. It's not just because a Jew that you're saved, they also, those that are saved from amongst the Jews, from amongst the 12 tribes, are those that have also, in addition to being Jews, also been signed. So it's necessary to be a Jew and to be signed. That's the literal sense. In the moral sense, Christians following the evangelical counsels like virgins following the Lamb, here the Jews are superior to Christians who merely follow the commandments. Here Gentiles. So verses 4 to 8 is Jews, verses 9 is Gentiles, from all tribes and nations and peoples and tongues. So verses 4 to 8 is Jews, verse 9 is Gentiles, and the moral meaning of that is Christians of counsel and Christians of precept. The Christians of precept, the contrast between precept and counsel is what you absolutely must do to get to heaven and what you can do over and above in order to get to heaven. What you must do to get to heaven is to keep the 10 commandments. Precept means commandment. Therefore, those are the Christians of precept, those who keep the 10 commandments, but they don't do very much more. The Christians of counsel are those who observe, in addition, poverty, chastity, and obedience. And in this passage here, verses 4 to 8, enumerating the 12 tribes of the Jews, in the moral sense, is the Christians who follow poverty, chastity, and obedience, whereas verse 9, the Gentiles are Christians who simply follow the 10 commandments. So the Christians who follow the evangelical counsels, poverty, chastity, and obedience, like the virgins following the Lamb, In this passage, the Jews are superior to the Christians who merely follow the Ten Commandments. In this passage, the Gentiles. Verse 4. The figure of 144,000 is symbolical. It's obviously not literal. The figure of 144,000 is symbolical. 100 is the perfection of works. This is the meaning of figures is something that St. Augustine liked to go into. 100 is the perfection of works. 40 is the perfection of penance. Four is the perfection of the evangelical virtues, four Gospels. Perfection of works, 40 the perfection of penance, 4 the perfection of evangelical virtues, and 1,000 is the perfection of charity. We then have verses from every tribe of the sons of Israel, verse 5 through to verse 8. The 12 tribes as following: Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. The 12 tribes are as following: represent the 12 apostles, or 12 different routes of sanctification. 12 different routes of sanctification. Dan is left out. There is no Dan. The tribe of Dan. Irenaeus says that's because his is the tribe of the Antichrist. Jeremiah 8 verse 16. Irenaeus says the reason why we don't have the tribe of Dan amongst Issachar, Zebulun, Naphtali, you'd expect Dan to be there. He's not. Jeremiah. Irenaeus says it's because Dan will be the tribe of the Antichrist. Jeremiah 8 verse 16. The snorting of his horses was heard from Dan. All the land was moved at the same time. The land of Lord, the city and its inhabitants. Genesis 49 verse 17. That's where the Joseph is. One moment. Yes, 49 verse 17. Jacob is blessing his 12 sons. Issachar shall be a strong ass lying down between the borders. He saw rest that it was good, and the land that it was excellent. He bowed his shoulder to carry, and became a servant under tribute. Dan shall judge his people like another tribe in Israel. Let Dan be a snake in the way, a serpent in the path, that biteth the horse's heels, that his rider may fall backward. Who can give me a famous character in the Old Testament who was from the tribe of Dan? Anybody know? Samson. Samson was from the tribe of Dan. Why, Delilah? Do any of you know that old song? My, Delilah. Yeah. Why, Delilah? You know the story. Yeah, she gave him a haircut which got him into a lot of trouble. But there you are. That's women for you. Samson was of the tribe of Dan, and there's this. I don't know exactly what it's based on. Is it based on that? The story of Dan. It doesn't seem there, but. And I don't know, to tell you the honest truth, I don't see how anybody can say that the Antichrist will be of any tribe, because the tribes have long since broken up. Before when and after when did the Jews strictly trace their ancestry and their tribe and the families inside the tribe and so on? And from when did the Jews cease to trace? And it's one of the proofs that our Lord Jesus Christ is the Messiah. Purple? Yeah, until the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. The temple had all of their records, absolutely all of their records, just like today. The Mormons have caves out in Utah. They have caves and caves full of ancestral. It's a Jewish thing. Mormonism is, like so many of these things, Jewish in its grain, like Protestantism and various forms of Protestantism. So it'll be some Jew that had got the idea of filling caves in Utah with ancestral lines. So the Jews all had very strict ancestral lines. You notice an Old Testament figure in the Old Testament, very often his ancestry will be given several generations back, because that's what for the Jews situated somebody. That's told you who he was and where he was coming from. Told you literally where he was coming from. Then when the temple of Jerusalem was destroyed, all those records were destroyed. The Jews were scattered over the face of the earth. Since then they haven't been able to. So I don't know why anybody can say that the Antichrist, it is said, I think Our Lady of La Salette says that the Antichrist will be the son of a Jewish mother, which makes him in Jewish law a Jew. The Antichrist will be a Jew. But how they know that he'll be from the tribe of Dan, they're certainly trying to rebuild everything, but and almost because a lot of people are called Levites, including the makers of jeans. So they must think, that may go back to, if you read in the Old Testament, the priests that going up on the altar were told to wear trousers. So, that may be a family connection of 1,000 years going back. That's why, maybe Levi's are such famous makers of trousers. I don't know. But in any case, Dan is meant to be of the tribe of the Antichrist, or the Antichrist is meant to be of the tribe of Dan. They are trying to put all of those things together again. Of course they are. But you can't recreate. They're going to fabricate it from nothing. Obviously, they can't really recreate tribal lines.
After the destruction of Jerusalem, when the priests of the temple destroyed, they rebuilt that after. They set up another school
In what century? Immediately after? Well, that may be where we get the name of, so many Jews called Levi today. I don't know. But it's fake. It's fake. It has to be. The records were destroyed. So, how soon after the destruction of Jerusalem? And then, of course, they've been through so many vicissitudes, ups and downs since. And they kept on getting thrown out. And they can't, it's impossible. Added to which, of course, a huge number of today's Jews have got no blood connection with Abraham at all. Where do they come from, anybody? Yes, from the Khazars, who are around the Caspian Sea in Russia. They were a tribe living on the north of the Caspian Sea. There's a book by a modern Jew called Arthur Koestler called The 13th Tribe, in which he proves that easily most Jews today, bloodline and race-wise, have got nothing to do with Abraham. The Sephardic Jews may have still something to do with Abraham, but the Ashkenazi Jews have nothing to do with the blood of Abraham. Unless it's mixed again a bit with Sephardic, I don't know. But there was a huge infusion of completely alien blood. But of course they picked up the spirit of the Pharisees. That they did do. They absorbed the spirit of the Pharisees and the spirit of the Talmud. And therefore they are spiritual Jews, but they're not blood. They're spiritually of the tribe of Annas and Caiaphas, but they're not blood-wise of the blood of Annas and Caiaphas at all. So, anyway, here, otherwise the 12 tribes. Not the tribe of Dan. And so we have Manasseh and Joseph. In the place of Dan, we have Manasseh and Joseph. So you've got Judah, that's normal. Reuben, Gad, 3. Asher, 4. Naphtali, 5. Manasseh, well, he's out of line. Simeon, 6. Levi, 7. Issachar, 8. Zabulon, 9. Joseph is out of line. Benjamin, 10. So 2 have got left out and 2 have been put in. Joseph has been put in. Ephraim has been left out. And Manasseh is in. So Ephraim and Dan are left out. And Manasseh and Joseph are in. Ephraim is left out because his tribe was the tribe of the leader of idolatry, Jeroboam. Jeroboam was of the tribe of Ephraim, and therefore Ephraim is got left out. Let me see if we can get this out. You've got 10. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you had Dan, and you also had, gosh, I'm sorry, I haven't looked it up recently, Genesis. The original list you'll find in Genesis 47 should be there. The list, 46, yes, well, it's, hold on, when he blesses them is 48. Jacob, Reuben. Thou art my strength and the beginning of my sorrow. Simeon and Levi. Let's have a look. This is the list in 49. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah should be the 4th. Judah, verse 8. Verse 9. Notice the long prophecy about Judah. Or we look at Genesis chapter 49. This is Joseph, who's about to die, the patriarch Joseph, blessing his 12 sons. And they're quite different one from another. Zabulon looks at number 5. Zabulon. Issachar. Some are more significant than others. And of course the most significant and the most blessed is Judah, because he is going to be the tribe of the Messiah. Issachar. Dan. Gad. Asher, Naphtali. And Joseph was, of course, the Joseph of the coat. Right? Joseph. How many does that make? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're missing one. Which? Benjamin, yes. Hold on, where's Benjamin's figure? That's right. A ravenous wolf. Benjamin, a ravenous wolf. Joseph and Benjamin. Who was of the tribe of Benjamin? Anybody? Somebody famous of the tribe of Benjamin. Saul, and who else? Saul, King Saul, yes. What tribe was St. Paul? Benjamin also, yes. That's the 12. Now, Dan gets knocked out. I've not got a red... Dan is knocked out, and who else? Joseph is in. Now turn to the Apocalypse. Now turn to the list in the Apocalypse. Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh is in. Manasseh. Joseph is in, and Manasseh. Manasseh is in Ephraim is not in. Manasseh and Ephraim were the children of Joseph. So Jacob is the father of all of these. Those are the 12 tribes. In the list here, Joseph had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim does not get put in here because his tribe was the tribe of... So Joseph's tribe sort of broke into Ephraim and Manasseh. Why am I right in thinking, somebody knows Old Testament very well, Levi had no land. Levi had no land. He was to live off the altar. His tribe was to live off the altar. Therefore, he was not given land when the lands were divided, when the 12 tribes were divided up. Therefore, there was still a 12 division because both of these, because Joseph's tribe got 2 lots, so to speak. Levi had no lot. Joseph had 2 lots. That's why there were 12 original sons of Jacob, 11 sons and 11 sons, or rather 10 sons. Sorry, let's try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sons and 2 grandsons divided up the territory. Oh, I put in Levi. No, I'm sorry. Levi, forget Levi. Botheration. Let's try that again. Levi, Judah said, these others, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's correct. That was the 12-part division of territory. Now this list, so this slightly different list of 12 is again altered. The list that we've got here is 1 Reuben, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leave out Dan, 7, 8, 9. Include Joseph, 10, Benjamin, and include Manasseh. That's it. Those are the 12. That's the list of 12 we've got here. So you've got the original 12 boys, the territorially divided 10 boys, 10 sons, and 2 grandsons, leaving out Levi. And then you've got that list again, slightly leaving out Dan and putting in Joseph and Manasseh. It's a little complicated.
We hope that you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, like and share.